Hello friends, welcome to Spellbound Homestead. Today we are going to be talking about the books that I read in March. If you don't know already, I set a challenge for myself in March to replace social media time with reading. And it went very well, and I'm very excited to share with you some books that I read and some lessons that I learned and things that I took away from this challenge. So go ahead and grab your cup of coffee, tea, or beverage of your choice. Let's get cozy and chat about it. In this video, I wanted to share with you that I read 11 books in March. I'm very happy with that number, and as I had shared with you before, it wasn't so much as a challenge as to how many books I could read, but rather how many books was I able to read in replacing screen time and reading I would be able to do without the distraction of screen times, and that number came out to be 11 for me. That may be a very low number to some or a very high number to others. It all just depends on you and your reading habits and the kinds of books that you enjoy. But for me, this is a very good number, and I was very happy with being able to read that many books, because normally I would not be able to read 11 books in a month. And so I was very happy with how that turned out as far as the number goes, although it wasn't so much about the number of books, but rather the enjoyment that I was getting out of books rather than using screen time. And so I want to share with you some of those books that I read in March, a very brief description on those books, and some thoughts that I have behind the books, as well as I will be sharing down in the description box some of my recent week in the life videos. I shared some of these books with you as I was reading them, and so those videos have a more in-depth description and some more thoughts that I have on those books. So if you're interested in that, you can always watch those down below. And so let's just go ahead and dive into it and talk about the books I read in March. The first book that I read in March was Presong for the Kitchen Goes, Stories and Recipes from 5 Generations of Black Country Cooks by Crystal Wilkinson. I originally picked up this book because she is a Kentucky author, which is where I'm from, and this turned out to be something that I wasn't expecting, but in the best way possible. She writes about herself, her experience, and her heritage and ancestry through cooking through 5 generations of Black women in her family. Not only does she go into descriptions and talk about her heritage and her ancestry, but she links it together in the form of cooking and food, and how food and cooking is important to her, her family, and her heritage, and how that all ties into her experience as a Black woman in Kentucky. And so I was very excited to read this book, and not only are we hearing about her experience and her heritage, we were also receiving a lot of recipes inside the book, and this is food that is so good and food that I would personally want to eat. And so it was really exciting to have those recipes tie into her storytelling. This was a book that wasn't like anything I'd read before, but I was very excited to have read it, and I actually gave it a 5-star review, so I highly recommend this one. The next book that I read was The Landscapes of Anne of Green Gables by Catherine Reed. I actually read this in preparation of beginning the Anne of Green Gables book with my children, and so I wanted to have a little bit of background about Anne of Green Gables, the author, and where the story takes place, which is Prince Edward Island in Canada. I had no prior knowledge to anything about Canada or this area, and so this book was a really great introduction for me to be able to get a better idea of where this story is taking place, and it also has some beautiful visuals and photography in the story as we are learning more about the author of Anne of Green Gables. And it was a really fun book to look through, and my children enjoyed looking at it, and they were able to see a visual of more of what it would be like to actually be at Prince Edward Island, some of the flowers and plants and landscapes that are there. And so this is a really enjoyable book if you're a fan of Anne of Green Gables. The next book that I read in March was actually a children's book, because I read this with my children in preparation for St. Patrick's Day. I debated on whether to count it or not, but a book is a book, and so I counted it. And that was Leprechaun in Late Winter by Mary Pope Osborne. It is a Magic Treehouse book where we follow Jack and Annie on an adventure in Ireland. A very cute, short read. We were able to read the audio, or rather, we were able to listen to the audiobook in a day, and it was a fun little read and festive for St. Patrick's Day. The next book that we read as a family was The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I picked up this book initially because of the title and the cover of the book. My son is very into STEM related things, robots, technology, things like that. And so I wanted to try this out with no idea of what this book was about, but I ended up loving it so much, and so did my children, more than I thought. And it's also going to be a movie that is coming out this fall, I believe September. And so we are following Roz, the robot, who washes up on shore on an island. And she is obviously technology driven, and she is learning to adapt in the wilderness. And not only are we seeing like a robot in the wilderness, but the experiences that she has as she's becoming more attuned to what's going on around her and adapting to her environment and all the things that happen. But not only did we enjoy this book, but it had a lot of great morals and lessons, and it was very realistic in the sense of the things that go on in nature. And so it was really interesting to see how technology and nature collided in this book. It's actually a trilogy, and we are working on book 2 right now. Also read a graphic novel this month. That was A Secret Garden, a graphic novel. This was written by Mariah Marsden and Hannah Lushfield. I butchered that. I'm so sorry. But my daughter actually wanted me to read this because she read it. She's like, Mom, I think you would like this. And it was so cute. We actually have plans to read A Secret Garden. I had no prior knowledge to really what the storyline was about, and so this graphic novel helped introduce me to that book in preparation for reading the book with my children. And it was just a lot of fun to read. The pictures were so beautiful, the illustrations, and it was just a very quick and fun read for spring. Graphic novel for March was Garlic and the Witch by Bree Paulson. This is a continuation of the story of Garlic and the Vampire, and these books are so cute. They're visually beautiful to look at. The story is so fun to read through, and we are going to follow Garlic as she's growing into herself, so to speak. And it's just such a fun little cozy read, and I absolutely love it. This would also be a lot of fun to read in the fall time, but we hadn't read this one, and so it was really cute, and I just don't know how else to tell you. It was adorable. The book that I read in March was The Tale of Hilltop Farm. Honestly, I was slightly disappointed in this book. I had high expectations. It was a good book. It was cute. It was cozy. There were some talking animals, a light mystery, nothing too severe as far as that goes. The idea of this book is that we are following Beatrix Potter as she moves to Hilltop Farm, and there's several mysteries going on when she arrives there, and we are following her as those mysteries start to become solved and unraveled. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite. Honestly, it was a little slow paced for me. It was cozy and cute, but not quite what I was expecting, so I gave it a 3 stars. Also read a design book, I guess is what you would call it. It's a house decorating book called Country Victorian. It was sitting there on the bookshelf at the library, and I said, that's how I like to decorate. This was just a fun coffee table book kind of read where I was able to look at pictures, get some ideas and some inspiration for decorating, and it was just a fun little cozy read about how country and Victorian mesh together, and those are kind of my styles as I like to decorate antiques and vintage and country living because we do country things. I'm from Kentucky, obviously. So it was overall a very cute, very fun read. Back to the Beatrix Potter. I also finished up Beatrix Potter Gardening Life. This was similar to the Landscapes of Anne of Green Gables in the sense that it was about Beatrix Potter, her gardening. We have illustrations, the kinds of plants that she would draw, and how that tied into real gardening at that time at her farm. I also read The Pages & Co. The Last Book Wonder by Anna James. This was the final installment to the Pages & Co. series, which is about several characters who have the ability to book wonder, which means travel through books. And so each book we are following their adventures as different things are occurring and problems and conflicts with book wandering in and of itself, and we are following these characters through their journey as they try to overcome these challenges. And it's just a really cute middle grade read. The book that I'm going to share with you that I read in March was my favorite book this month. This is my face the entire time I read it. I was cheesing from ear to ear. I absolutely loved it. This is called The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. She's also the author of Dead Romantics. I love this book. I love magical realism and those types of books, and so this was right up my alley. And it was actually a romance, which isn't something I typically read much of, but it was fun to mix up my genre. They're following the story of Clementine. Her aunt sadly passes away, and she inherits an apartment that her aunt had and gives her. But the thing with this apartment is that it's magical, and her aunt told her stories about it when she was younger, but of course she didn't really believe it until it actually happens to her. Whenever one day she walks in the apartment and there's a man in there, but he lives 7 years in the past. And so we are forced to develop feelings for this man, and they are having this romance. She's dealing with grief with the passing of her aunt. She's also dealing with some things in herself about her career and how she's been living her life and what is it that she truly wants. Absolutely love this book. It had a little bit of spice, but it wasn't too much. It was just a really fun, cute read, and I just absolutely loved it. That is all the books that I read in March. I was so happy. I had a little bit of everything, a little bit of romance, mysteries. We also had some biographical things, some children's books, and so I had a little bit of Mod Podge of this and that. But I'm very happy with how it went. And some things that I've also just took away from this challenge is I've been really spending a lot more time thinking about how I want to spend my time, and so it's really kept me in check about how I'm spending my time. How am I using it wisely? Am I doing things I actually enjoy doing, or things that I feel like I should be doing? And it's a really great way for me to enjoy reading again and to get back into the habit of reading. And so that is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe on your way out of here. And as always, I hope you have a magical day.